We're now going to talk about how edgy copy can give your business an edge. I know, I could not resist. So let's start out with who I am and why me. Well, I'm Cathy Goodwin, and you probably know that because you signed up for this. I specialize in working with independent professionals and small business owners who want to grow their business online. And what that means is my clients want to build a reputation for being expert in their field, and they also want to operate with utmost integrity, and they want that to show in everything they do. They want to come across as likable and easy to work with, because I tend to work with professionals who are experts, and people can be intimidated by someone who's an expert. Even if you're, let's say, a professional organizer, I would find that intimidating to have someone come into my home and organize. So I would want to know that they would be likable and easy to work with, and not take a look at all the piles sitting around and saying, oh my, I don't know what to say. They want to communicate a passion for helping their clients. And they are passionate. They are dedicated. I've worked with some attorneys, and attorneys sometimes get a reputation for being kind of cold and shark-like and greedy and all kinds of things. But the attorneys I've worked with have really been passionate. They see pain, and they see their job as helping other people overcome their pain by using the legal system in an ethical way. They attract prospects who want to become clients. And of course, that's the whole purpose. That's why they hire me. That's why we work on websites. And finally, they want to use the internet wisely and well, which means that they want to know what resources to reach out to on the internet. They want to know what they need to have and what will make their lives and their jobs easier. But at the same time, they want to be realistic and prudent. They emphasize value. It's not about just saving money. It's about getting value and not getting frills and bells and whistles that they don't need. Well, that's all I'm going to say about me. And now we're going to look at two common mistakes that business owners make when they're writing their copy. And that's why we're talking about being edgy. First, a lot of professionals are really concerned with being professional, which of course is important. And they want to get copy that sounds professional. So what they do instead, and I did this myself when I started, I wanted to sound serious and get taken seriously, and I ended up with copy that came across as colorless, flavorless, timid, and just plain boring. Sort of like drinking soda water. Sometimes it's nice to have, but it's not the most exciting thing around. Or they do the opposite, and I've done this on some of my copy too. They hear, well, you got to be friendly. So they go running around and get copy that's fun, but totally forgettable. They write something that uses clever words and clever phrases. And in fact, when you write copy, you don't want to call attention to your copy. You want to have edgy copy that sends a message, but where people don't sit there and say, wow, that's really cool copy. They just want to feel the effect without necessarily thinking about what's causing the effect. Edgy copy is a balance between reaching your tribe and turning away or turning off the rest. So your copy ideally will be edgy when people read it or hear it and say, that's me. That's exactly where I belong. That's my tribe. I want to know more. And some people hearing or seeing that very same copy will say, forget it. You know how sometimes you walk into a party or a networking event and you just realize this is not my scene. I don't belong here. And you leave as soon as possible. So that's the effect you want to have. That party that turns you away, that's sending you out the door, is drawing other people who are thrilled to be there. So here are 3 signs that your copy needs an edge. When you look at your copy and you look at your marketing, there are a lot of things that could be right, and there are a lot of things that need fixing. But how do you know when what needs fixing is that you need to add some edge to your copy? First, you realize your copy could have been written by any 3, 4, or 10 competitors. There's the dreaded cookie cutter. And I see this all the time when I look at professional websites. People promise the same things over and over, especially coaches and sometimes lawyers and accountants and consultants promise to offer the same benefits over and over again. And that's not really helping you when you do that. This is a sign that you need to add some edge. You need to add some personal style to your copy so people feel that you're talking directly to them. And secondly, your clients seem surprised when they meet you by phone or in person. They say, "You don't sound like your website," or "I didn't expect you to be so nice." Have you ever had that happen? I have. And when that happens, that tells you your copy needs edge. Or your sales letters on landing pages just seem to fall like trees in a silent forest. They've had that joke about, does anyone hear a tree when it falls in a forest and nobody's around? Well, sometimes it feels like your copy works that way. And we've all been through that. Even though you offer real value and your clients want what you have, you've got a tribe, but it just isn't happening for you. That's another sign that it's just a matter of being edgy, adding something to your copy that relates to your clients. Now, it is so tempting to play it safe if you're a professional, because most professionals are terrified of being over the top. That, again, was my biggest fear when I started out. I wanted to make sure that people knew that I was a person who was educated and should be taken seriously. And I was a person who was professional, knew my job, and you may be able to relate to that. So, like many people, I confused professional with bland. In other words, I thought, well, professional means you have to be serious. After all, before I got on the internet, I was writing articles for academic journals. And I like academic journals. I actually enjoy reading academic journals. And I understand them, and they can be really exciting if you know how to read between the lines, but they're not exactly stimulating like a murder mystery. So the idea is that you want people to appreciate you as a professional, but that doesn't mean you have to be blah and use multisyllable words and passive voice. You can add a lot to your copy and still come across as professional. So let's take a look at what the myths are that lead people to have those beliefs. First, myth number one is that edgy copy is sleazy and salesy. And I used to believe this for a long time, that you had sales letters that screamed at you. We have these sales letters, we call them clickbait, because you've heard of ClickBank. Well, that's what a lot of sales letters are designed for. They're really out there. They have that big red headline, and they're promising all kinds of things, and they're using very strong language, and they're pushy. It's like, gotta buy this. If you don't buy this by tomorrow night, your business will be in trouble and you will never recover. Remember hearing that? Well, that's a very common myth. And the truth is, of course, that edgy copy is not about being salesy, and it's certainly not about being sleazy, unless you're in a market that likes this kind of writing. And there Myth number two is that edgy copy uses strong language. Now, I'm trying to be delicate here because I don't want to be censored anywhere in case you're repeating this somewhere. And I know people have different views about what is acceptable language to use. Some people use four-letter words and sound just like Tony Soprano. And some people would really try to sound like the stereotypical prim librarian, who doesn't really exist anymore, if she ever did. But there are certainly differences in the way you talk to someone who's swearing like a sailor versus maybe someone, if you're a religious person in a certain type of church, you certainly would not use that language in that context. So you have to think about how you're going to use that type of wording when you make statements in your copy. Now, it is partly true that people do use strong language. And I'm seeing a lot of people using the word badass. In fact, it's gotten to the point where the word badass is becoming so common, it's almost losing the power to shock or come across as edgy or strong. It's just one of those words that's overused. So that's another thing. You have to be careful when you do that. And some people like language that is quite strong. The more you sound like we'll take the stereotype of the sailor who swears. The more you sound like that, the more you sound like Tony Soprano, they will love you. If that's your market, then that's what you want to do if you're comfortable. And if you're not comfortable doing that, you don't serve that market, or you find another way to reach them. But there are other markets that don't want that kind of language. In fact, I know I was talking to someone who was looking for a certain type of service, and she said that I saw people who were just out there with all this kind of talk and using words and all kinds of things, and they're extremely successful, but I just don't relate to them. So you have to decide what works for you in your market. And again, some markets love it, some don't. Some markets want you to be really, 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 I guess the word clean is what I'm looking for, really, really careful about what you use. And I want to mention, this is not about age, and it's not about stereotypes. You just have to know your market. I've known, for example, people in their 70s and 80s who swear like sailors, to use the cliche. And I knew a guy in my gym who is a former U.S. Marine, and he absolutely will not swear. If he says, gosh darn it, that's big for him. So you have to not pay attention to the stereotypes, and you have to really know who they are. Now, myth number 3 is that edgy copy is clever. It calls attention to itself. You use cute phrases and turns and words that really make you say, wow, that is great copy. And I want to emphasize that one of the myths about copy is that people notice it. Copy is invisible if it's working. When you read a sales letter, you should be so aware of the message that you're not thinking of the way it's being delivered to you. If you stop and think, that's a really good phrase, or wow, what a clever metaphor, that copy isn't working because you're not thinking about the product. You're not thinking about what they're trying to sell you and why you might need it. It's sort of like we hear when you take public speaking courses or you work with coaches on speaking. They tell you not to use a jangly bracelet, not to wear jewelry that distracts, not to wear clothing that is distracting. Like for a female, it would be a very, very low-cut top. And the reason is that will distract your audience from the message you want to communicate. Well, the same thing happens with copy. If you use certain types of language, it's so clever, people notice the messenger and not the message, and then you know something is not working. Another myth is that edgy copy has to be funny, but the truth is funny can work against you. I'll give you an example. A long time ago, there was a commercial for a beer, and to give you an idea how ineffective that commercial was, I don't remember the name of that brand of beer. It was cute. It had a guy sitting in a chair, and he was drinking a beer, and as he finished, he says to the dog, hey, go up and get me a beer. So the dog goes to the refrigerator, and you hear this sound. The dog is walking through, and the guy says he's opening the refrigerator, he's looking through, he's taking out a can, he's pouring the beer, and then you hear lapping sounds, and the guy says, wait a minute, what is he doing? He's drinking the beer. And it was very, very cute the way it was presented. It was tasteful, it was funny, and it was one of those commercials that if this were today, it would have been a video that went viral. But I don't remember the name of the beer. I don't remember why I should drink that beer. It really was not a successful commercial in the sense that today we want people to take action. And it was also a different type of commercial. It was more of the Mad Men era type, where you want to associate good feelings and warm and fuzzy feelings with a product, whereas today you want to get people to go out and buy. It's really more what we call direct response, because you want people to respond immediately. Myth number 5 is if you're working in a market that's conservative, let's say you're marketing to lawyers or accountants, or you're in a very serious business setting, that you can't be edgy. Well, the truth is you can be edgy, but you have to be edgy in a specific way. You give people a sense of what it's like to work with you. As we said, you want someone who's non-judgmental. Remember I said if I had an organizer coming over, I would be really worried about what that person would be like to work with. I don't want someone coming in and taking a look at my closet and saying, where did this come from? How can you live like this? Oh my God, what have you accumulated over the last several years? Actually, I mention that because I just had a closet organizer installed on my own without an organizer, and I was very self-conscious, and an organizer would have terrified me. The same with a lawyer. I mean, if you've had a DUI and you call a lawyer, you don't want a lawyer to scold you. I mean, you know you messed up. It's time to move on and look to the future. I had a client who was an immigration lawyer. It's one of the things I learned about immigration is that if you commit a crime, even a small crime, even a misdemeanor, even running a red light, in some cases you run the risk of being deported. So if a person goes to an immigration lawyer and talks about chances of getting a visa to stay in the U.S., then that immigrant has got to be willing to disclose everything to the lawyer, because otherwise it's useless. And that means the lawyer has to be easy to talk to. And this is where you get into edgy copy. You get to show who you are. You want to show that you're open to new ideas, that you're not stuck as a fuddy-dud. You want to show that you're supportive, even an advocate. And as I said, the clients I attract tend to be strong advocates. They really, really care about their clients. We don't have to fake it. So how do you get edgy? We've been talking all around it, but what do you have to do to be edgy? Well, first of all, edgy copy is conversational. And here I'm showing two guys in a bar, but that's contextual. Think about the conversation that will take place in a certain room or a certain office or a certain outdoor area. That's what we mean by conversational. If you're working with clients who are going to be listening or reading your copy in the context of their workplace, then it's a different kind of conversation than if you're holding that conversation in their living room or a bar. Edgy copy is very, very targeted. If you're a parent, and I'm not, but I watch a lot of Super Nanny, then you know that parents of a toddler like this are going to be very different from parents of an infant, parents of a school-age child, and parents of a teenager. And each of those will have different concerns and talk in a different way about their child. So if you're a coach, a parenting coach, then you will tailor your copy to where that person is very, very specifically. The more you can target, the more you will be edgy, and the more people will sit up and pay attention and talk about your copy. Metaphors add an edge. One of the metaphors I use is about basketball and copywriting, and I tend to say that copywriting is like basketball because you have an open court, because you take a lot of shots, you have certain types of moves. I also use metaphors about football. I tend to say that copywriting is like the quarterback in a football game, whereas design is more like the offensive lineman. Now, I target football watchers, and I have a lot of men clients, so I tend to use sports metaphors. If I were attracting a predominantly female audience, I'd probably use something different. I might use imagery about weddings or children. But I also find that a lot of my clients who are women are not really stereotypical, and they watch sports and they enjoy sports metaphors, so I use them. You have to decide what metaphors to use. The metaphors will add an edge to your copy, make it more likely that people will pay attention. And of course, stories give you an edge. As you know, storytelling is one way to get people's attention, even in a crowded market, on just about any topic. You'll have them listening, you'll have them staying with you on the edge of their seats till the end. So the bottom line is, keeping everybody happy means keeping nobody happy. With edgy copy, you're conversational. So, think about this. If you're going to have a conversation with your grandmother, or if you're a religious clergy person, you're going to have a different type of conversation than you would with a friend. And if a friend meets you in a restaurant for dinner and you start to talk the way you do to someone else, it's probably going to be very uncomfortable and awkward, and they might even decide to leave. So the idea is to identify very clearly how you want to come across and focus on making some people very happy and not worrying about the other people who are not going to be happy with what you've got. If you want to have multiple segments, there are ways to do that, and that's a topic for another video. Well, if you'd like to learn more about this, I have several ways to help you. One is the copy consultation. This is really the premier service that I offer, the most popular. We meet for 60 to 90 minutes and we talk about any aspect of your marketing. We can focus on a specific item of copy. We can talk about how to make your copy more edgy or why something isn't working. We can talk about any areas that you would like to get into. We have a lot of time. I allow a full 60 to 90 minutes. And I get information from you ahead of time, so we hit the ground running, and we have follow-ups. We have follow-up email. We have all kinds of follow-up where you are not just left hanging. And the copy review is for people who want to just get a comment on their copy. Maybe you've written something and you want feedback on it. Well, what I do is I go through, I look at it, I might ask you some questions, and then I do a video critique of your copy, and you get a complete review with some notes and suggestions to make it better. The nice part of that is you don't have to be there. You just give me your copy and ask your questions, and people have found that very helpful. The copywriting course is new. It's really how to become a copywriter, but it's included in the course is a whole course on on copywriting, the basics, and all kinds of other information on different types of copy. It's designed to be extremely comprehensive if you want to become a copywriter, or if you want to simply write better copy, you can use this as well. And I'm offering a discount on my storytelling course. If you go here, mycopy.info/story17, you will get 50% off, actually 51% off the regular price on my Udemy course on storytelling, if you'd like to go there. I just had a note from someone who took that who said, Cathy, you made this really, really clear. It's a course people like, so I'd encourage you to check it out, especially use the discount. So if you want to copy these slides, I'm going to ask for a small bribe. I won't disguise that. I'd like you to send me a message either to this cathygoodwin.com/contact, or just reply to any email that if you're on this call, you got emails from me, and tell me a few things. Tell me what you liked, what you'd like to see differently, what you'd like in the future. And this is actually a video that's a replay of a webinar. So tell me what you think. I'm not looking forward to 10 paragraphs. I'm just looking for a phrase or two, something like more of this, less of that. That's it. Just something very, very quick. And I'm always interested in topics you'd like me to talk about in the future. But if you'd like to learn more, once again, copy consultation is available to you. The copy review, which is the video critique, and the copywriting course, which I've just issued, and it may still be on a discount when you go check it out. And the storytelling course, this is the link to get the discount. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again on a future video, and perhaps we'll be talking about your business in a one-to-one consultation. Thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of the day.